Hey everyone, let's talk about something every single beekeeper runs into eventually. That one hive that just seems to be struggling. We're going to go through some really practical, field-tested ways to diagnose the problem and, more importantly, turn that wee colony into a powerhouse. So you're out in your bee yard, right? And you notice one hive just isn't buzzing with the same energy as the others. Maybe their population seems a little, well, stuck. Or worse, maybe it's actually getting smaller. It's a super common thing to see, but just hoping it'll fix itself, that can spell real trouble for your entire apiary. And this is exactly why you have to act. A weak hive just doesn't have the numbers to defend itself. It's basically a giant flashing open sign for robber bees from stronger hives. It becomes the perfect home for pests like wax moths and a wide open door for diseases to walk right in. It's not just a hive that isn't making honey, it's a genuine risk to all your other colonies. So, what's the game plan? We've laid out a step-by-step guide here. We've talked about the problem, so now we'll dive into some immediate first aid with space and population boosts. Then we'll cover the right way to feed, how to check on the most important bee in the hive, the queen, and a last resort unification strategy. And of course, we'll wrap it all up with your action plan. Okay, let's get right into the hands-on solutions. These are the first things you should do, the foundational steps that give a weak colony a real fighting chance to bounce back. The first technique, and honestly, maybe the most crucial one, is called hive compression. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine a small family living in a huge, sprawling mansion. It's going to be really hard to keep it warm and to defend all those doors and windows. But if you move them into a smaller, cozier house that fits their size, it becomes so much more manageable. That is exactly what we're doing for our bees. So how do you actually do it? It's really, really simple. First, you open up the hive and just take a look. How many frames are the bees actually covering? Then you just pull out any of the extra frames that are empty or barely have any bees on them. The point is to shrink their home down to a size they can easily manage. It lets them focus all their energy on what matters, keeping the brood warm and defending a much smaller space. All right, the second way to give them an immediate boost is a direct population infusion. You go to one of your big booming colonies and you borrow a frame of capped brood. Now, you have to be 100% sure the queen is not on that frame. You take that frame and you put it right in the brood nest of your weak colony. Over the next several days, thousands of new bees will emerge, instantly beefing up the hive's workforce. All right, this all builds on itself. We've made their home cozier, we've given them more bees. Now we need to make sure they have the right fuel to power their recovery. Now this is so key. It's not just what you feed, it's how you feed. Don't just slap a giant feeder full of sugar syrup on there. A weak colony can't defend that and you'll just start a robbing frenzy. Instead, think small and steady. Give them small amounts of solid food like a sugar candy block or a pollen patty on a regular basis. This gives them sustained energy without sending out an open invitation to every robber bee in the neighborhood. So, let's say you've done all that, but the colony is still not turning around. Now it's time to dig deeper and find the real root of the problem. And, more often than not, it all comes down to the queen. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? You can provide all the support in the world, brood, food, a smaller space, but if the queen isn't pulling her weight, the hive is just stuck. A strong, productive queen is the engine of the whole colony. Without a good engine, you're not going anywhere. So what are you looking for? When you do your inspection, look really closely at her laying pattern. Is it a nice solid sheet of brood, or is it spotty with empty cells all over the place? Is there just not much brood, period? If the colony's population just won't grow, these are all giant red flags that your queen is failing. And if you confirm the queen is the problem, the solution is pretty straightforward. She has to be replaced. I know it can feel like a tough call, but introducing a new, well-mated, and vigorous queen is often the only way to give that colony a real future. But what if a hive is, well, what if it's just too far gone? Maybe it's down to just a couple of frames of bees, and you know it's not going to make it on its own. For that situation, we have one final strategy: unification. Merging is pretty much what it sounds like. You're combining the bees from that very weak colony with a strong, healthy one. The goal here isn't to save the weak colony as its own unit. It's about saving the bees themselves and adding their numbers to one of your stronger hives. It's a fantastic tool for keeping your overall apiary strong and healthy. The easiest and most common way to do this is called the newspaper method. First things first, and this is absolutely critical, you have to find and remove the queen from the weak colony. You only want one queen in the final hive. Then you just lay a single sheet of newspaper right over the top of the strong colony. Take your hive tool and slice a few small slits in it. For the last step, you just gently place the box with the weak, queenless colony right on top of that newspaper and put the hive cover back on. What happens next is actually really cool. Over the next day or two, the bees from both hives will start chewing through the paper. As they work, their scents slowly mingle together. By the time they meet face to face, they all smell the same, and they just accept each other as one big, happy, and much stronger family. Whew! Okay, so we have covered a lot of ground, from some quick fixes all the way to some pretty big interventions. Let's boil this all down into a clear, simple action plan that you can take out to your apiary. All right, here it is, your summary. First, compress the hive. Make sure the space fits the population. Second, give them a boost with a frame of emerging brood. Third, feed them small, frequent, solid meals to avoid robbers. Fourth, always assess your queen. She is the heart of the colony. Fifth, don't be afraid to merge a hive that's just too weak to make it. You're saving the bees. And finally, the golden rule. Inspect your hives regularly. Catching a problem early is half the battle. And really, that's the whole point of this. To be an active, observant beekeeper. Don't just stand back and hope a weak hive gets better on its own. Now you have a whole toolkit of strategies you can use to step in and help. So the only question left is the one for you. Which of your hives needs attention first?